Hello friends, welcome to another video on my YouTube channel, and in today's video you will learn about Python Flask backend where you will use Redis to immediately pass the request on a Flask server and then process it via a worker. So your Flask route is free for next incoming request. This is a structure that has been used by all production level applications where the route has a process which takes time. So let's get started and look into the development of this application. Here I have all the code written and I have terminal opened with me. I will create a virtual environment using venv. So the command will be python 3-m for module venv. The last one is the name of my virtual environment. When I hit enter, it will create a virtual environment like this. Then I will activate the virtual environment. Next, I'll pip install -r from the requirements.txt file and I'll install all the required dependencies. Now let's see the code. So we have this main.py. Now this main.py, let me select the correct virtual environment. So this main.py has three things. First, it creates an app which is Flask app. It creates a Redis connection. Then it creates a task which is a queue which is coming from RQ. Both the technologies Redis and RQ has a good documentation. You can visit their websites for more detailed understanding of both the frameworks. Then I have two routes. One route, add task. Second, task status. This first route has a function create task attached to that. It creates a job. So this RQ has a queue. Inside that queue, I will put a job, which is this task, long running task, and it takes an argument 10. If we look here, it is nothing but I just put the function aside for some duration, and that duration is coming along with the function name into this enqueue, and then we will return the job ID and 202 status. Then there is a task status route which accepts a job ID which is written from here. When we will pass it here along the route name, a function called get task status is attached to it, and we'll first try to fetch the job from the queue. If the job is not there, we will send 404, but if the job is there, we will send the status, job ID, status and result. Now you need to understand that this result is coming from here. Whatever result we set here, this result will be displayed here, or you can say this queue will attach the result written from this function to that job. Then we have another file called worker.py. Here again we will create a Redis connection, and then we create a queue. We pass the queue to the worker. You can pass multiple queues here in a list as well. So we will pass our queue and the connection. This worker will watch all the queue into this connection of Redis, and then we will start the worker. So now in order to run this application, you need to run two files. First, is this main file, which is our Python Flask application, and second, the worker, which constantly looking into the queue for task. Whenever a new task comes, it takes it and completes it. So what I'll do is that I'll create a new window as well, and let me put it side by side. I'll source into this as well. Now here I'll run Python main.py, and here I'll run Python worker.py. Oh, it says Redis connection is not there, and that's totally fine. For that, what I'll do is that I'll open a terminal, and we will find some resource to run the Docker of Redis. Okay, I guess this is what we are looking for, but we don't want to run the whole Redis stack, but that's fine. I'll copy this and I'll come here, I'll paste this, and I'll just remove this -d to run it in the terminal mode. So when I close it, the Docker will stop itself. So I'll run this. It will pull the Redis stack, and let me put this into readme as well. Yeah, you can see the server is initialized. So I'll just minimize this, and if I run it again, you'll see that listening on default, cleaning registry for queue default. Now I have this Insomnia, which has to request to taste first localhost 5000. So here we will hit add task. So when I hit send, you will see we immediately receive a UUID, and if we check the status of it, oh, it is finished. And you can see here, when we requested on add task, you have seen this task was added and it was successfully completed, and the result is kept for 500 seconds, and you can modify all of these things as well, and we can see it is there. So now I'll do this very quickly so we can see what happens in between. Yeah, you can see it is started. Now it is completed. Let me just change the 10 second to, let's say, 15 seconds. So you'll see. So I'll come here, and what I'll do, I'll add bunch of tasks, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, and if I come here, and you can see, yeah, it is in queue. Okay, it is in at this point queue. It is not started. So this task is not started. But if I come here, so for example, I guess default, yeah. So you can see one by one the jobs are being completed. So if I take this ID and come here, yeah, you see this is completed. So you can see one by one it is taking the job and trying to complete one by one. Yeah, you can see the last one is still in queue. Now based on your hardware configuration, you can run multiple workers at the same time. So let's see if, yeah, this is still in queue. Now let's look into another way of running the same application. At this point, we are running the application using two terminals. One is running the worker, one is running the Flask server, but it is not a convenient way, and obviously we want to run it in background. So the first step or the first way to do that is to use Docker file. So this is one Docker and this is another Docker. What you can do is that you can build image of this, and then run both the images one by one. I'll show you that as well. So we were on Docker. So what you can do is that you can run both these Docker files separately, like this one. I'll now stop this. Let me stop this as well. Now what you can do is that docker build -t, let's say backend, and then dot to provide the Docker file. So it will take default Docker file. So when I do that, yeah, you can see it is now installing and the image is there. When I do docker ps, the one is running. I'll say docker images, and you can see we have this backend image. Okay, and now I can run docker run -p 5000. We will need network host tag, because the Redis is running on my local machine, but Docker is running inside a container, so it doesn't have access to my local machine. So we are saying network host means use a local machine as well. Then the image name, which is backend, and you can see it is running. And the same way we can run the, I guess, build the worker as well. So I'll say docker build -t, let's say backend -worker, and I'll say docker file dot worker. Okay, I have got the command, which is docker build -t, then your image name, then -f for the file, and then dot. So when I hit enter, it will build the worker as well. And when I go to docker images, we will see backend worker as well. And what I can do is that docker run, and we don't want to expose any port. So what I'll do is that run -network host, and I'll say backend worker, and you can see it is cleaning all the registry and now watching to the default queue. So I'll stop this. Now as you can see, again it is the same thing. You need to run two Docker file. This is not a solution as well. So the ultimate solution to this is write a docker compose file. Now this docker compose.yaml file is a special kind of file which explains what to do. So it says that run two services, web and worker. I can say backend, for example, because this is our backend. And how to build the backend service? So use the context dot, means this folder, docker file name is docker file, port 5000. There is a volume that we want to attach. There is environment variable and network mode host. Now there is a worker, so build it. The context is again in the same folder, but the Docker file name is dockerfile.worker, and there is a volume and environment variable and network mode host. If you don't pass these two things and these two things here, it doesn't make any difference at this point. And in case you don't want to run Redis separately, what you can do is that uncomment this. I'll do that, okay, and then I'll uncomment this as well and uncomment this as well. And what I'll do is that I now then need to stop this, otherwise it will conflict with the port number. So what happens is that now there are three services. First, run the Redis, because this two depends on Redis. So once the Redis is done, try to run both the application. Now we don't want network mode to host. You can see as this. And now there are two commands to run the Docker compose file. I have written it here as well. This is Docker compose up build --build force recreate. Just this build force recreate to make sure that it registers the changes. Okay, I'll hit this. You can see it has started pulling the Redis, and I'll write one more command I guess, that is docker compose down -v. So any volume attached to it, remove that as well. You can see now, you can see here, oh, connection refused. I'm not sure why the connection was refused. Pass the connection URL. Redis, if I come here, host, and so on host I'll say Redis, and on port I'll say 6379. Okay, let's see if this works. Otherwise we'll move from this part. I'll rebuild this. Okay, I guess that was the issue. Now you can see the worker and backend both running. You can see it has three running. This has some yellowish color, green, and some blue kind of color. And now if we come here and if I add task, you can see task is added. And if I come here, my bad, copy, get the status, you can see started, and if we refresh it for a couple of times, it is finished. So this way you can run the application on server using Docker Compose. I guess this is it from my side. The repository I have used here is available on my GitHub, and the link for it is in description. So I hope you have gained some knowledge out of this video, and now if in your job role, if you need to run a long process in a Flask server, you will use Redis and RQ to move it to the queue and run it using worker. And there are lots of things to explore as well. For example, there is on success, on failure functions that you can attach to the queue as well. So when a job is successfully completed, you will get notification. If it is failed due to some reason, you will get notification as well. So I hope this video is helpful to you, and if it is so, please consider subscribing to my channel. That helps. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the life, feel the music. Peace.